Thanks for staying with us. This is Newsline, and I've got the Chief Executive, Mr. Donald Tsang, here with me. Mr. Chief Executive, you've said a lot about the poverty, poor people in Hong Kong. I just want to, you did not offer any relief in your policy speech a few days ago, and you did also say that that is an issue that the financial secretary, it's for him to deal with, handing out relief to people and so on. We discussed about poor people in Hong Kong. You disagree that we have got 1.2 million poor people, as some surveys have found. You say it's a lot less. But those people will still be here in the next few months when the financial secretary delivers his budget. Surely he needs to help them.
Well, we have got a reasonable regime for helping our underprivileged in Hong Kong, from comprehensive social security, health care, housing, education, care for the elderly, and so on, which is a very comprehensive scheme. It's non-contributory for that matter. And of course, it's not perfect. There's nothing like perfect system. But I think we do a reasonable thing. Over the last 18 months or so, because of the financial tsunami, we gave a lot of additional handouts, double pay, waiver from rents, and all sorts of things. I believe for the purpose of policy address, I should not deal with those issues. We must look at a longer term
Will the FS deal with it?
Well, whether the FS deal with it depends on the fiscal position at the time. But the fact of the matter, as I said, we have got a reasonable regime.
So you don't think you need to give out any more relief?
When we have the resources to do it, we should continue to improve the system, making sure our poor will be helped, particularly those who need help. But in my policy address, Michael, don't forget I have put a lot of words on how we help the elderly, particularly the provision of more elderly home, buying more elderly places, ensure that they have a decent life. I also talk about how we deal with the psychiatric patients who need additional care, particularly those who are now recuperating at home, and also talk about those who are physically handicapped, particularly those groups who believe that we might be lacking. But that's why policy issues, I believe, are proper content for policy address. Otherwise, in terms of resource allocation, it is really a matter for the financial secretary to consider.
Okay, well, we'll see what he does. Now, I just want to move on to democracy. This is going to be a biggest issue, democracy, in the months ahead. As expected, the Democrats are furious that you are insisting that they must wait for a democracy roadmap. For now, you will only deal with reforms for the 2012 elections. I'm sure a lot of people want to know, is that decision your decision, or is it Beijing's decision that we will not have a roadmap now?
That was a collective decision. We went through that together, Michael. First of all, we started with 2005, when we put up what I consider to be a reasonable package for reform. But that was rejected, despite there was some majority support for it in the community by the legislators. In that, not all of them. Of course, I did not get 2/3, a majority on that occasion. On one particular ground, and that was we did not have a timetable. So in my election campaign that followed in 2007, I made it a point I would strive my very best to secure that. And fortunately, in December 2007, we got a timetable that we're going to have universal suffrage election for the chief executive in 2017, and that for the legislature in 2020. But for 2012, the regime should be as follows. He set it out in general terms. Particularly, there should not be a change to the 50-50 percentage point between the functional constituency seats and the directly elected seats. And the present system should continue. But within that, we could then make further changes. And that would be the framework for change for 2012. My job now is to make sure that within that framework, we should be able to advance further from the present electoral arrangement to make that arrangement more democratic, more open.
But why don't you give them a roadmap? If there's going to be elections in 2017 and 2020.
The point is, there is a procedure we have to go through. First of all, the present remit is for us to discuss only 2012. If we want to go to do 2017 and 2020, In terms of legally, we have to go back to National People's Congress Standing Committee.
And you have
And
said...
we have to trigger that. That's one procedural point. And then the second point is practicality. Just look at the practical point of view. Even getting a consensus on an improvement program is not easy to achieve. Just look at the experience we had in 2005. So it will be very, very difficult already on present situation to secure that 2/3 majority on the issues related to 2012. If you bring in the additional elements of 2017 and 2020, embracing such contentious issues like abolition of functional constituencies and so on and so forth.
You feel you don't have the time to do it?
We don't have any chance at all of securing a consensus or even for 2012. That's